Welcome to the workshop, which is about both our class that we hope you're all going to be teaching and about the software that makes it work. Stephanie, I turned my speaker down so I don't hear you, but let me turn it back up again. Now I could hear you, I'll bet. Oh, okay. So, there's got to be a way for me to stop hearing myself.
I think that's the right-click thing that Jeff is talking about. Jeff? Yeah. Or did he do that? So he doesn't want to hear himself, but he wants the thing to work, right?
Yeah.
So he should just turn the volume off on his.
But I want to hear the other people.
But not hear himself.
Okay, I'm going to not worry about it, and I'm just going to ignore the fact that I hear myself. Okay. So, most of today is going to be about the technical stuff because that's the thing that you need a head start on. So I want to just spend the first few minutes reminding everybody that the technical stuff is only half the course. So we have this great textbook, Blown to Bits. You're shaking your head, why?
I just said, oh, it's only half.
Yeah, oh yeah, only half, okay. Which is about the social implications and social uses of the technology. And we have stuff in there about the future of technology and the history and some of the computer science theory. So there are a lot of different aspects to the course which are backed up by materials on the website. The textbook itself is free online, although you guys should go out and buy a copy and help support the authors. And there are lectures videoed online, so there are a lot of materials about that. And if we have time today, we'll come back and talk about it, but I'm guessing we won't. So, okay, now I'm muted. So now I can't hear the other. Okay, fine. All right. Okay, so with any luck at all, you're looking at BYOB, which is our extended version of Scratch. About half the people who filled out the little form in the room here are new to Scratch. So for the first few minutes, just pretend this thing up in the corner that says BYOB said Scratch. And we're going to look at how to do things. So this is a programming language for kids. One of the big barriers to kids learning to program is that kids can't type. So they spend forever just looking for the thing they're supposed to be doing. And Scratch avoids all that because all of the primitive operations that it knows how to do are provided in these blocks. And the blocks have little notches in them. You're supposed to think of them as being like Lego bricks. And so if I take another one and drag it in here, and what you're watching for as I do this is a horizontal white line between them. And once you see that, that means you can let go and they'll snap together. And that's the way you put programs together. And so I've made a very tiny program that doesn't do anything interesting. It moves a little and turns a little. And if I click on it, I can run it. And my character here moves a little and turns a little. That's not so interesting. There are 8 different menus of things, and I'm going to switch from motion to control right now so that I can pick up this block that says repeat 10 times and drag it around the other stuff. And now it does something slightly more interesting.
Okay, Brian, just pause for a second.
Okay.
No one remote is seeing anything move. Oh, is it happening now?
It's probably delayed.
Uh-oh.
Aha.
There is a lag on the screenshot. Okay.
Uh-oh, there's a big lag on the screenshot. Yeah, lag. And
Okay, well, I'll try to talk slowly.
no.
So that,
Like right now, if you look at the screen,
yeah.
you haven't even dragged over the thing.
Oh,
I mean, it's a lag. It's
major lag.
I can see your mouse moving. I'm still looking at motion. So there's a massive lag on Adobe Connect able to do real live screen sharing for people. So I'm looking for this here, and you can see that this is really ridiculous.
I'm wondering if it wouldn't be better
Mine's like frozen rather than the
for the remote people to just sort of play along and me try to describe what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's actually probably a really good idea.
Okay, so remote people, start BYOB. And you can just do this yourself. What I did from the motion palette, which is the one you see when you start up, the dark blue ones, I got move 10 steps and turn 15 degrees, and I clicked them together in the middle area, which is called the scripting area of the sprite. And then you click on the script and it runs. Then I went to control. In the top left corner, there are the names of 8 different menus, which are called palettes of blocks: motion, looks, sound, pen, control, sensing, operators, variables. And I went to control, and I found a block called repeat 10, and I dragged it in. And move and turn, I put inside the little slot, the C-shaped slot in the repeat block. And so now when I click, the guy moves and turns. My mouse is moving in real time, but nothing else. All right. Weird. I bet there's some screwy thing about it not the way BYOB works on the Mac or something that doesn't. I don't know. Okay. Sorry for the technical interruption. Do you think, Dan?
I think everybody should do this.
Do you think, Dan, it would be worth taking a few minutes for me to try to control this conversation from my PC? See if that works better?
If you want. I mean, I don't think there's anything about the Mac that's not.
It's not? Okay.
Try it. You can try it.
Well, here, you try it. How's that?
Okay.
Get me in this conversation, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, meanwhile, can I click on each area? There's a password?
Log into Windows.
What?
Okay, so this is Dan stepping in. We're trying to videotape and support the 8 people in the room as well as all the remote folks. So thank you all for your patience today. It's the first time I've done this simultaneous
Again,
thing.
you click that again.
Okay.
Which
Here we
one?
go.
Repeat 10.
That's
Oh.
suggestion.
Sure.
Suggestion when they just have it repeat 10 times, it goes extremely fast. Looks like you're only doing it once. So if they put the weight in there for maybe half a second or something, they can actually see it go to 10 times.
Ah, so just keep doing it, you're saying?
No, put a weight.
No. But, oh, yeah, okay.
Jeff has raised their hand. I approve a hand raise. Okay. I think people should be following along. I think the model is don't watch us, but I don't know if there's a way to have you BYOB in one window and us in the other, but that would be an ideal case
Okay.
of 2 screens. That would be perfect.
Okay, Dan, oh, well, never mind. Okay, so somebody suggested a weight, so I just put a weight inside the repeat, and now if I,
Show on the BYOB, broadcast screen. Interesting.
so now it moves slowly.
Or you can make weight half as much time.
Yeah, but I'm not going to leave it there.
But the person sitting next to me, she said, they only did it once.
Yeah, okay.
Let's get to that.
So now, all right. So now if we can, I'd like to move on to a slightly more interesting thing to do, to show off some of the capabilities that Scratch has. And the first thing I'm going to do is get another sprite up here. And down underneath the stage is the white part, there's 3 buttons for new sprites. One says paint it, one says pick from a file, and the third one says surprise me. So I picked surprise me, and I got this blue whatever it is. And so I'd like to show you that you can have different scripts going in different sprites at the same time. So right now I'm programming this blue whatever it is, and I'm going to say when green flag clicked, which is at the top of the control palette, and then I'm going to say repeat until, which is most of the way down the control palette. Then I'm going to the sensing palette, and I'm picking up the very first block, which is touching. Notice that these sensing, stop that. These sensing ones are, accept, yes. Why isn't this working? I give up. Accept decline.
Did it work or did it?
I don't know, it went away. Notice that some of these blocks are hexagonal. That means that they report values that are true or false. And they fit into hexagonal slots in some of the other blocks. So sprite 2 is going to say, repeat until touching sprite 1
Wait, where'd you get the blue part?
from sensing.
Sensing. It's this
Sensing controls.
up left sensing.
Actually, I'm going to put a go-to in here just for fun. So now I have a program that says when the green flag is clicked, start here on the left and keep going until you're touching this other guy. His name, by the way, is Alonzo, the yellow guy.
He's labeled sprite 1.
Yeah, he's labeled Sprite 1, but that character has a name. He's the BYOB mascot. His name is Alonzo. So every time I click the green flag, it starts on the left and keeps going until it hits this guy. So meanwhile,
Brian, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
How is your XY, how are you setting up your plane there?
the center of the stage is 0, 0, and right is plus and up is plus.
Can I add something there too?
Yeah.
If you can place it, let's say you can place the sprite where you want the sprite to start from, and look at the section right above the script area.
Oh, right there.
And it tells you where that spot is.
Oh, hey, that's
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
Also, if you switch from another palette into the motion palette, then this go-to block that's about 6 down will have in its X and Y slots wherever the current position is.
Okay.
So that's easy. So that's how I drag this in.
Shot there. Okay. All right.
So right now it's a one. Well, okay, sure. If I move this guy and I click to another palette and then I click back to motion, this now has a different set of numbers for X and Y here.
The tricky part though with that I found with my kids is you have to get out of that area and then come back again.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I always tell them look at the top, put them where you want to be, and look at the thing.
Yeah.
above
Right,
the
isn't there
sprite.
also a stage which has the coordinates if you want to show people?
Yeah, I do that too.
Do we want to load that one in?
A grid stage?
Like a grid stage?
Yeah, there is a grid stage. No.
I'm cool. I just want
Baker
to.
says, could you minimize?
Yes, there is a grid stage. And I think you can actually move your sprite to another place and then just double click on the go-to block and it'll reposition itself. Put it in the middle.
Okay, somebody said, could I minimize the BYOB window? What is this in aid of? Are you having trouble fitting it in your screen?
You can tell them we're broadcasting on 1024/768.
Oh, the lag. Oh, he thinks it'll be faster if we make it smaller.
Right.
Can I resize this?
Sprite smaller, you say?
No, I'm making this.
Whole window smaller for people who are trying to view this in that remote conferencing thing.
Just want to see if the
That's a good.
lag is related to BYOB. Oh, I see. It's only the BYOB window that we're sharing right now, Baker. So
Try sharing a PowerPoint or something.
we could try, yeah.
The desktop, you're only sharing that, so you have to go back in and say.
Yeah. I have no idea how to do that. I do this, and I come here, and, oh, what am I sharing? What is this?
That's the view of the window. That's like his view of this.
Oh, okay.
Web browser.
All right.
His view of
Well,
you have to go back.
and then re-enlarge. Okay.
What's there?
Yeah. Okay. I see. Well, anyway, here we are.
Did you do it or no?
I did. I just did. Yeah.
Okay.
On my share screen right now.
Nothing.
That's a lag, I suppose.
No. Okay. Oh well.
Wow.
Anyway, so my second sprite has this program that says start over on the left of the screen and just keep moving to the right until you hit the first sprite. Now I'm going to write another program for the first sprite, which is going to say when the green flag is clicked.
So if you're experiencing lag remotely, just listen to Brian and see if you can do what he's doing
Yeah,
verbally.
yeah.
And your screen will eventually catch up. So sorry about that.
Right. So say when the green flag is clicked, forever, and then I'm going to go back to motion and say move 10 steps, turn right 15 degrees. So he goes in a circle. Okay, so that's the program. Second guy moves until he hits the first guy. The first guy keeps moving in a circle forever. But now I'd like them to interact. So go back to sprite 2, who has this repeat until touching sprite 1. And underneath that, not inside it, but underneath it, I'm going to take from the control menu a block called broadcast and click it in. And the way broadcast works is you just send a text, any old text you want. You click here and you get a menu in which just says new right now. I'm going to put hit. It doesn't really matter what you call it. You can call it anything. But once I have this broadcast hit, I can go back to sprite 1, and he can have a whole nother script starting when I receive hit. So these blocks with the curvy tops are called hat blocks, and they're the ones that say when to run a script. So the first one up here says when the green flag is clicked, do this stuff. Now I'm starting a second one that says when I receive hit, and I'm going to go to looks, and I'm going to set color effect to, I don't know, 70. And maybe back in my first one, I'll set color effect to 0. So this will work. Okay, so you ready? Here goes. Green flag. And furthermore, I can add, after setting the color effect, stop all. So here's the new program. Oh, he went back to his original color. That's interesting. I wonder why that is. All right, maybe I won't say stop all. Maybe I'll say, I don't know. I'll just let him run. That'll be more interesting. So, beginning of the program. So this is a really stupid little animation that I've done. A more interesting thing that you can do is have them carry on a conversation. So when the blue guy hits the yellow guy, he can say, ouch, for 2 seconds. And then I'll put a stop in, stop all. Okay, so.
Suggestion, Brian.
Yeah.
Once you check with everybody, make sure everybody's where you are. Right? They have the same screen that you have on both sprites.
Okay.
Because I'm not there.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
You're going fast.
Yeah, I'm going fast. Oh, that's interesting.
Ask them, is everybody where you are?
Okay, is everybody where I am?
Everybody okay in there?
I don't have the say ouch.
Okay.
Which sprite's right?
It's sprite 1. It really doesn't matter. It's just,
For the purpose of the people on the remote video, it's hard to show
Yeah.
the scripts of both Sprite 1 and Sprite 2. You can't do that, unfortunately.
You can't. I mean, you
Not
can't
at once. He
Not
either
at the same
shows
time.
Sprite 1 or Sprite 2's
Right.
script window,
Right.
but there's like a minute delay from whatever he shows. So we've got the issue of he has to show Sprite 1 to have them copy it, make sure that they have the same thing.
You okay? Tina?
I'm trying to figure out. So I have a bug in my program, which is that sprite 1 keeps going. And I tried to fix that with this stop all, but it didn't stop all. So I'm going to try something else, which is instead of,
Actually, Brian.
what?
It just went for 2 seconds and then stopped.
Yeah, but then it kept spinning around and turning colors. So I'm going to replace this forever with a repeat until. Oops, sensing. Touching sprite 2.
You got edge.
Oh, yep, you're right. It says edge. I meant sprite 2. Thank you. And now we'll see if it does what I want. Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Okay, so this has to be.
Okay, so looking at sprite 1, he has 2 different scripts. First one says, when the green flag is clicked, set color effect to 0, so he turns yellow again. And then repeat until touching sprite 2, move 10 steps, turn 15 degrees. So if we back this guy off, if I only run this script and not any other script, then Alonzo keeps turning and turning and turning forever. And this is happening because I didn't click the green flag. I only clicked this one script. So nothing else is happening.
I have a question
Yeah.
for Brian and Dan. When we're doing this, we're going to be doing this like with some people who've never used Scratch before, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So another suggestion is, before we even do any coding in the script area, is to define and describe the different palettes that they have to use.
Okay, let me do that now. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, okay, so there are 8 palettes. The first one is motion. They're the dark blue blocks. And that's about moving the sprites around the screen. Sprites are these little characters that we have. So move and turn, point in this direction. Oh, I should warn you, those of you who are math teachers, even though the XY coordinates are just like high school algebra XY coordinates, angles are measured clockwise from north instead of counterclockwise from east. It's map maker coordinates rather than mathematician coordinates for the angles. So you can go to a particular place. There's a block called glide that says move slowly to a particular place. You can change just X or just Y. There's if on edge bounce for convenience. And then there are these 3 blocks that tell you what the position is. Whenever you see an oval block like this with a little checkbox next to it, what happens when you check the checkbox is it puts a viewer on the stage. This one says sprite 1 X position. So you can, as your program is running, keep track of interesting variables. If you check the checkbox down here where my cursor is,
Oh, I see. That's cool.
you can view X position, Y position, direction, whatever. Okay? So that's motion. Looks is about what the guy looks like. So switch to costume. You can have several different sprites, several different costumes for a sprite. So import. Oh, here, this will be fun. I'll just find Gobo. So now if let me put him right side up, because this is giving me a headache. When I say next costume, see, every time I click it, it changes to the next costume in order. You can have as many costumes as you want. Some of the costumes come in sets, so you can have like a little dog with his legs moving as you walk across the screen and so on. Not 2 different sprites, 2 different costumes. Costumes, same sprite.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
What?
I wouldn't call it a costume. I don't know. Costume doesn't sound right to me. I think of clothes when I see a costume.
Well, that's what it is, kind of. Well, anyway.
It's something to put over.
Think Halloween costume, where it's a whole head to toe. But it's the same sprite because it's the same kind of action figure with the same scripts, so therefore the same behavior, but just a different appearance.
Again, just for the discussion part of it, to to me, a better term would be image, because you can have, right now you got Goble there, you can also put a man out there to be the second costume, then a fish to be the third costume. You can have different images.
Not at the same time.
You cannot, you saying I cannot?
If you want to have two different things on the stage at the same time, they're going to be two different sprites.
Right, correct. No, I'm talking about switching from
One to the other, yeah.
From one,
That's right.
switching from one costume to the next costume, you can have different sprite, different type sprites.
But no, it's the same sprite because it has the same behavior. What's important about a sprite is its scripts. Okay?
I did a break, I see what I'm talking about.
Okay. It's a different look, that's right, and that's why we're in the looks menu. You can also tell a sprite to say something or think something. Here's what think looks like. A little thought balloon. You can change its color. You can change its size, get bigger, set the size back to normal. Most important thing in the looks menu is show and hide. So I can say hide, he goes away. And then I say show, he pops back up. That's actually much more important than all the costume and effects and everything.
When it's hidden, you can still draw with it.
You can still draw with it, but if some other sprite has a touching sensor, it won't be touching. It's not, you can't touch it unless it's there. There's also go to front and go back so many layers. So if you have two sprites overlapping on the stage, you can say which one should occlude the other one. So that's looks. There's sound.
The way at the bottom, the way bottom.
So we can have sounds associated with our sprite, and we can either import one. So here, let's. So if I play this sound, oh, my speaker's muted, isn't it? Let's unmute my speaker for a minute. Oh, okay, I got to turn it down. So let's see if I can hear this. No. Oh, well. Anyway, so there's sounds, and there's play the drum, and there's play notes. So there's all this stuff. Colleen Lewis, who built a lot of our curriculum, really likes to start with sounds. And her reason is that it makes very clear the sequential nature of a program. That if you say play sound, play sound, play sound, and you hear beep, boop, bonk, rather than, you get the idea that they happen one after another. I hate to start with sounds because if you have a room full of 30 kids all listening to sounds, you will quickly go crazy.
Headphones.
Headphones, if you've got them, are great. Yeah. Pen. So as we're moving around, we can draw. So let's go back to scripts here a minute. Headphones with mics. Okay, so I'm going to start this guy spinning around here, and then I'm going to click pen down. And see what happens? As he's moving, he's now drawing a circle, basically. If I pull him away. So pen down means from now on, as I move, leave a trace of where I've been. And I'm going to mute myself again. And the pen can be different. Yes?
There's something strange that I don't understand. So you put things on a script and that describes attributes for your sprite, but then you can also click things in your menu and that'll affect your stage, but it won't go to your script. I don't understand that.
Okay, so a script is a remembered behavior.
Right.
That can include a bunch of blocks connected together. But yes, that's right. You can click on a block in the palette and it'll just do whatever it does, as if you had drawn it into the scripting area and then clicked on it as a little script of length 1.
And you can directly play with the stage and directly adjust your orientation of your sprite without a script. You can just go in and align things if you wanted to, but if your sprites then get moved around, you'll have to do that again manually.
And then
So that's
you
an annoying
save
thing.
that, you open it up next time, those attributes you did in the menu aren't saved, or they are saved?
No, what's saved when you save a project is the scripts and, of course, the costumes and the sound, all the media stuff.
Okay, so if I click pen down on there, and then I save it, and then I reopen it again. I
Oh,
would
good
put
question.
pen
I
down
think the
again.
pen will be down, yes. I'm pretty sure that's true. So it does save the attributes of the sprite.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
One thing about clicking over there and that on the left is like I think like Dan says, you can, let's say right now he has that little circle there. But when your program starts, you don't want the circle to be there as opposed to putting clear screen in the script area. You can just say click on clear, then that circle goes away.
Yeah, so I can click on clear right now, and that circle's gone.
Got it.
Okay, so that's one thing about being able to click over.
So another thing to remember, I clicked pen down. This guy's pen is still down. So if I move him, see, he's still drawing lines, even though I've sort of forgotten that I did a pen down. So it behooves me to say pen up.
You can see it up in
Yeah. Okay, so that's pen. Control is the most important one. It really lets you structure your program. It has these hat blocks that say under what conditions should a script run. It has looping constructs, forever and repeat, and a little further down, forever if, and repeat until. It has conditionals like if else. It has this broadcast mechanism that I described. So all of the ways of organizing a program that everybody teaches in the first week of computer science class, here's what a loop is, here's what a conditional is, that stuff is in the control menu. Sensing is how you ask questions about the environment. So am I touching another sprite? Am I touching the edge of the screen? Am I touching the mouse? Am I touching a particular color that's been drawn on the background? Is a particular color in me touching a particular other color? So like this little blue guy, I can say is just the green part touching something, or is just the light blue part touching something. And by the way you pick those colors is if you click on a color box, like right now it says color sort of pinkish, is touching color sort of purplish. I'm going to click on that first one, and I get an eyedropper. And now I can click anywhere on the stage, and you see the color box change to whatever color I picked. Like that. Okay?
What is the number being used in there referring to, the 70 on the effect tube?
Set color effect? Oh, Scratch has a notion of colors that are on a sort of 1 to 100 scale. It's pretty arbitrary.
Okay, so it's just,
But I just picked a number. Yeah.
Can I mention one other thing?
Yeah.
Brian, that little, down at the bottom of the screen, where you have all your sensing blocks, that little dash, that little thin little line, it's my belief that everything below that
Oh, this.
that line right there is BYOB.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
That's good to know too.
So yeah, the question was where my mouse is right this second, there's a little thin line in the sensing menu, and this is true in several of the other menus. Like if I go back to control for a minute, you'll see this thin little line here. And that line is separating. Above it is the stuff that's in Scratch, and below it is the stuff that we added in BYOB.
And there's even a line below that, which is stuff that we have ourselves.
Yeah, and there could be a line below that, which is stuff that we've created, which we haven't even started talking about making your own blocks yet, but we will get to that. There were enough people who've never used Scratch that I wanted to start with that. Okay, so we're almost done with our tour of the menus, which I'm supposed to call palettes, but I never remember. Operators has things that are reporter blocks. When you call it, it tells you a value. And And there's the arithmetic operators, and there's pick a random number, and there are the relational less than, greater, equal to. By the way, it took me a long time to learn this. These less than, equal to, greater than blocks aren't limited to numbers. You can put in text strings, and they are compared alphabetically. So, you know, sort of dictionary order. There's this word before this other word in the dictionary. And or not, the Boolean operators. True and false, we actually, that's right. It's not quite true that BYOB only stuff is below the line. True and false here are blocks that we added in BYOB, but they're above the line because we think they should have been in Scratch in the first place. They're not particularly related to our big features. So true and false are just reporters of constants. Report the value true, report the value false. Mary Miller says, ha.
Can you also mention the shapes of the blocks again?
Yes, I talked about the shapes. Okay, so there are four shapes actually of blocks. There's the hat block, which are the curved, swooshy ones, like when green flag clicked. There are the jigsaw puzzle piece shaped blocks, otherwise known as Lego brick shaped, except if it was really Lego brick shaped, the little dots would be on top. So upside down Lego brick shaped. And those are commands that take an action. So you click it and it does something. Then the oval ones are reporters. You click it and it gives you, well, here, pick random 1 to 10. I click it and it reports 9. If I click it again, it reports 1, and so on.
Is that kind of terminology important to kids to understand, sort of a vocabulary reporter?
Do the kids need the vocabulary, command reporter, and the third one is predicate, which are these hexagonal ones. It's important once you start building blocks, because when you build a block, you have to say which of the three shapes you want.
Okay, and the swishy, the hat-shaped box,
The hat-shaped block is just a hat block, that's all.
it's all in called hat.
Hat, so there's hat, command, reporter, and predicate, which is a special case of reporter whose range is true and false. So more reporters, there's stuff about concatenating character strings. We added above the line ASCII code for a letter and the letter from an ASCII code. That was another thing that was missing. Another thing that we added in BYOB is this is such and such a, and then there's a pull down menu of types. So you can ask, is it a number? Is it a text? Is it a Boolean, meaning true or false? Is it a list, which we'll talk about in a second? Is it a command, reporter, or predicate, which are the different kinds of blocks you can make? Or is it an object, which means, right now, that means either a sprite or the stage. So is something we added above the line.
That's relatively new too.
Yeah. And then here's the line, and then there's the real BYOB-like stuff underneath it, which we'll talk about in a bit. Last menu is variables. Can you read text from a file in BYOB, Baker wants to know. Not the way you're thinking, but you can read text into a list if you make a list. And that's in Scratch too. I'll show you that in just a second. First, I want to say, if you're running in Scratch, real Scratch, not BYOB, the variables menu starts out with nothing in it except make a variable and make a list, these two buttons. And when you make your first variable, the orange blocks appear. When you make your first list, the red blocks appear. We did it differently. We have them there all the time because of first-class lists, which we'll talk about in just a minute. It didn't make sense for us to have those things be invisible ever, really. So they're just always there for us.
Preference at all?
What?
Sandwich preference at all? You don't care if I doesn't matter, right?
No cheese.
No cheese, good. No cheese.
Tuna would be great. Dan's getting lunch. You people who are remote, you don't get lunch. Yeah, okay. Baker's having pizza. Okay. All right. So how do you get text into BYOB? You make a list. I'm going to call it foo, because that's just what I do. So here's this empty list foo. And let me see if I can remember this. If I control click.
Click on the make a list gray button or the list red button?
I clicked on the make a list white actually button.
Is it white?
And you can tell that because it made a list up on the stage that has a name. And now I'm going to control click on it, or maybe I'm going to command click on it, or maybe I'm going to shift click on it, or maybe I'm not.
You wanna put items?
I think Apple
Yeah.
Click.
No, sorry?
Apple Click?
Apple click.
Is it the plus sign? Click the plus sign.
Just
Click-
hit the plus sign, that adds, if you wanna add an item.
No, I don't want to add an item. I want to read a file.
Trying to do what? Create.
Maybe if I click on its little foo block,
How do I delete the food block? Because I want to restart.
there's delete a list.
Oh, there you go.
Oops, maybe if I shift, there's a way to do this and I can't remember.
What are you trying to do, Brian?
I'm trying to read a file into this list.
Oh,
Oops.
let me see.
No, that's not it. I swear you click on the actual list on the stage. Baker says control click.
There it is.
What?
You gotta kind of control click and hold. It's a little bit of a lag.
Up near, oh, on the name, huh? Oh, look at that. And I have export and import. So I can at this point say import. And then we can read some secret information of Dan's.
So what does it do by space? What's it doing? It's
What
by
are-
line break.
What are we adding?
What? Scratch print, yeah.
Go to his desktop or something.
I'm looking for just a plain old text file. Here's a plain old text file.
Just click on control and put your pointer on it. It says food.
Wait, stop. Stop doing that. Okay. Stop! No, not start, stop. Okay, so here's my list, and it's now a list of length 12, and it's got, oh yeah, Dan's notes from the meeting we just had. So we can get rid of that. You can import any, yes, it's split on new lines. So one line of the import file becomes one piece of text. What you can't do is, during the running of your program, have your program ask to read a file. We're thinking about coming up with that in a later version, but there actually is a good reason why Scratch doesn't do that. And I think it's worth talking about what the good reason is. Namely, this Scratch is a program for kids. Oh, I should have said this at the very beginning. Scratch, the program developed at MIT, their target audience is 8 to 14-year-olds. Our target audience is high school and college. So BYOB is a sort of moving upward extension of Scratch. But let's get back to the 8 to 14-year-olds. On the Scratch website, there are well over 1 million projects that have been uploaded by Scratch kids. And you're a parent, and your kid wants to download some program written by God knows who that does God knows what and run it on your computer. So you say, well, I don't know about that. And your kid tells you it's perfectly safe to run anybody's Scratch program on your computer because Scratch programs can't read and write files, can't send information out to the web. All they can do is make pictures appear on the screen. So that's why they don't have file I/O in Scratch. It means parents and teachers can just let kids run wild on it and not worry about viruses and things. So, of course, when you're doing more complicated projects with older kids, one of the things you want to do is be able to get data. And so we are planning on doing that, but we have to think hard about how to try to maintain the total safety of Scratch and still be able to do that. Probably it's going to involve some kind of sandboxing. So when you populate foo from a file, it copies the text from the file into the list, 1 line per item.
So if you just press return at the end of the line, that'll be 1 line in your list. In your text file, you press.
In the text file, it says return, yeah. Yeah, so 1 line per line. Okay, so also, but can I post the project? Yes, and all the data will go with it. Yes, you can do that. So once you get the stuff in manually, but see, since you did it,
Can you post it to the MIT website?
yes, you can.
BYOB Scratch?
No, not BYOB. But if you in Scratch, plain old Scratch, you populate a list from a file of yours, and then you upload the program. Yes, you're telling the world whatever was in that file. And other people can download it, but they're only downloading it into a Scratch program, not onto something on your disk that can get you in trouble. So we have to figure out some kind of sandboxing technique to allow you to do it under program control and still feel safe. Okay. Whew. I think we're done talking about Scratch, so I'm going to stop and ask if there are questions. All right. So one of the things that you guys should do is get on the Scratch website, which is scratch.mit.edu. And you will find there Scratch itself for download and the million projects. And on the front, what? Yeah, almost 2 million, right. It's growing exponentially, of course. By the way, most of those projects are not very interesting. They're, hi, I'm Fred, you know, or something. But there are some really, really, really good ones, too. And therefore, the Scratch team have a thing called featured projects. The featured projects are not necessarily the most complicated ones. They're not the ones that the high school kids made. They try to have a range, so there'll be a project by an 8-year-old that's really good for an 8-year-old might be a featured project. Those are good for a lot of reasons, one of which is to give you a sense, if you happen to be teaching 8-year-olds, you can get a sense of what to expect from them that way. So there's all these projects on the Scratch website. There's also there's a link on the Scratch website to another website called Scratch Ed. So it looks like Scratched, but it's pronounced Scratch Ed. And that's a site specifically for teachers to share curriculum, handouts, ideas. I tried this and it didn't work, you know, all that. So I found some really cool stuff for use with kids on Scratch Ed. So those things are resources that you should know about. The third website that you should know about, of course, you all have seen by now, is the BYOB site, byob.berkeley.edu. You can also get there by Snap. Tina Garcia Guest would like to enter the room. Sure.
She's here, this is Tina right here.
Yeah. Okay.
She's playing around.
Anyway, you can also say snap.berkeley.edu. As of the new version that is coming out this summer, it's called Snap instead of being called BYOB because count them, two people complained about the name. Or are you number 3?
I'll add it in my.
Okay, 3 people have
my friends wouldn't like it.
3 people have complained about the name.
I mean, if you're targeting teens, no, it's not acceptable.
Okay. All right, we're going to have 2 minutes for me to vent about this subject. First off, what BYOB, the other meaning, what does it stand for? For us, build your own blocks. Build your own blocks, that's a pun. But the other meaning of BYOB, bring your own beer, doesn't mean, hey, come get smashed. It means I, the host of this party, am not providing alcohol. So that's not such a terrible thing for kids to hear. Yeah, I know, bring your own bottle, or bring your own beer, or bring your own booze. It stands for all those things. But in parts of the world other than the United States, where people aren't crazy paranoid, for example, in Australia, there's a thing called a BYO restaurant, which means, and we have those in the United States, although they're not called that, it means the restaurant is licensed to let you, to pour out of the bottle that you brought in, but they're not licensed to sell you a bottle of alcohol. We call them that in Chicago. And, you know, they say this on their window. You walk down the street and it says BYO in big letters, you know, as you're walking down the street in Melbourne. And every place except the United States, people don't think that admitting that there's such a thing as alcohol is going to turn every kid into a souse. But in the United States, some people think so, and therefore we're changing the name of the software to Snap, as in the blocks snap together, which doesn't really have an acronym, except we reverse engineered an acronym of Software for the New Advanced Placement class. Yeah, right. Thank you. Oh, good. Just what we needed. There's a way to think of snap as having a bad meaning. Let's not tell anybody. Don't put that in the minutes. Okay. Yeah, Snap also had the advantage that we were able to get snap.berkeley.edu as a name for website. So
BYOB will go away.
yeah, well, actually, they're the same website. You can connect to either one, and that will be true forever. But yeah. But up in the corner where it says BYOB, it'll say Snap. And we're going to have a nice splash screen where the top half of the word snap and the bottom half of the word snap together. Anyway. Okay. So, Scratch, from a computer science standpoint, has some really interesting things. Notably, it's parallelism. The fact that you can have all these different sprites, and the same sprite can be running different scripts at the same time. And you get to deal with issues about concurrency, and what if two different sprites are trying to modify the same global variable? You know, all that kind of stuff comes up in Scratch. And that's very, very cool as a way of starting to teach kids computer science. But it also has limitations. The most important of which is you can't define procedures. So in every other programming language in the world, instead of having a script that says do blah, 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 you would have a procedure with a name, and you could call that procedure. So the history of BYOB goes like this. 3 years ago at the first Scratch conference at MIT, I was there, and I hadn't been very impressed by Scratch because you couldn't define your own procedures. But they made me come to the conference, and I got turned on by the web community, which is a really amazing thing that they've done. Bring together, well, there are 500,000 kids with Scratch accounts, but it's probably more like 250,000 actual kids. Because I know my kids, whenever they forget their password, their solution is to just make a new account. And, you know, I wanted to be part of that, so I started saying, I'm a complainer. What I do is complain. So I was complaining loudly about the lack of procedures in Scratch and how you couldn't, therefore, teach recursion and so on. And I organized a little rump session about why we should have the ability to make your own blocks in Scratch. And one of the people attending that session, unbeknownst to me, was Jens Moenig, who's a programmer in Germany. And Jens, unlike me, is not a complainer. He's a doer. So he went home and wrote the first version of BYOB. Just at the time that we were starting the development of CS10. And we wanted to be able to use Scratch. A lot of colleges have, and some high schools too, have invented the idea of doing Scratch for a week and then switching to some grown-up language. Yeah, that's pretty annoying. But you could just close the door, yeah. It's the right thing. Yeah. So, right. So we made, so Jens made BYOB version 1, and we said, oh, you know, we can probably build a course out of this. But I'm a complainer, and I complained that it still wasn't good enough because it didn't have higher order functions. And Jens and I spent a year going back and forth where he would write a new version of the software, and I would get it in my email and complain about something. And the next day I'd get a new version, really literally daily builds from Jens and me complaining. So that's how BYOB came to having the form that it does today.
There's still complaints going on.
Oh yes, I'm still complaining.
When you say higher order functions, what exactly are you?
Okay, a higher order function is a function of functions.
Okay.
So derivative and integral are the standard example of higher order functions in math. But we'll get to that in just a bit. First of all, we're going to do a very quick tour. In our course, the course that you guys are all learning to teach, there are really two big ideas that are about the technology, about the software. And one of them is recursion, and the other one is higher order functions. So that's where we're going to spend most of our time today. And as a build-up to the first one, I'm going to make a new project. Get rid of all this stuff that I've already done.
Follow along with the new project?
If you want. Yeah, either way. Yeah, sure, follow along. And we're going to learn how to make a block. And there are two ways to start out. One of them is at the bottom of the variables menu, just like the button make a variable, make a list, there's a button make a block. And you can click that. Or alternatively, if you right shift or control shift click or whatever works on your computer, you can get a menu like this that has a bunch of things, and the last one at the bottom underneath a bar is make a block. So either way, pushing the button or alternate clicking the scripting background, you get this dialog box. So I want to make a new block to add to the repertoire of BYOB. So I get to decide, somebody let Dan in? Oh, it's open, okay, good. I get to decide, first of all, which of the 8 palettes do I want to put it in? I prefer to say that App Inventor is like this. Yeah. We were there first, actually, but 1 minute before the tape ends. 1 minute before the tape ends. Okay. Yeah, it just got started. So there's actually 10 choices in this, not 8, and that's because in the variables menu, there are already 2 different colors of block, and then there's a third possible color called other, which is just gray, for something that isn't in any category. In the first version of BYOB, all the blocks you made were gray, and that was one of the first things I complained about. So I'm going to make a motion block. I clicked motion. And now I have to decide which of the 3 shapes it is. Do I want a command, jigsaw puzzle shaped, an oval reporter, or a hexagonal predicate? I'm going to pick command. And I'm going to call my command square. And it's for all sprites. That's almost always what you want. I'm going to click OK. We're in the block editor, and the tape's going to run out.
Good.